I am Richard the Lionheart, yes, the King of England, and welcome to Lionheart Cinema. Today's tale is The Shadow of July, when John F. Kennedy faced the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. Strange times, I know. Leave a like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. And now, let the story begin.
October 22nd, 1962. Evening settled quietly over America. It was a night like any other, no different from yesterday or the day before. Families across the nation gathered in their living rooms, the glow of black and white television sets flickering against the walls. Children hushed, parents leaned forward, and the entire country waited for the voice of their president. Good evening, my fellow citizens. The familiar Boston cadence of John Fitzgerald Kennedy filled the air. On the screen, his image appeared. This government maintained the closest surveillance of the Soviet military buildup on the island of Cuba. The words dropped like stones. Families exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the weight behind them. Unmistakable evidence has established the fact that a series of offensive missile sites is now in preparation on that imprisoned island. A shiver rippled through the living rooms of America. Not even the wealthiest homes with their polished floors and glowing chandeliers could shield their families from the dread creeping in through the television set. What had been whispered in corridors of power was now spoken aloud. The purpose of these bases can be none other than to provide a nuclear strike capability against the Western Hemisphere. Each of these missiles is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead more than 1,000 nautical miles, striking Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, San Francisco, or any other city in the United States, Canada, and Central America. Living rooms across the country fell into silence. Parents held their children closer, imagining the unthinkable. In addition, jet bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons as far as Lima, Peru, are now being uncrated and assembled in Cuba, and air bases are being prepared. Acting in defense of our own security and that of the entire hemisphere, a strict quarantine on offensive military shipments to Cuba is now in effect. This nation has no wish for war with the Soviet Union, for we are a peaceful people. But the course before us is uncertain, and the months ahead will test our patience and our resolve. The path we now walk is full of hazards, but it is the one we must take. Darkness swallowed the screen. October 27, 1962, the White House Oval Office. Morning light poured softly through the tall windows. President John F. Kennedy sat at his desk, an open book before him, though his eyes were not on the page. His mind wrestled with matters heavier than words on paper. Behind him at the window stood his younger brother, 37-year-old Robert Francis Kennedy, his gaze fixed outward as if searching for answers in the autumn sky. "Anyway," Robert said at last, his voice tight, "I can't agree with you, brother. And what disturbs you the most? The way you're dealing with the situation? We can't resolve the matter if we proceed in this way." The president turned his eyes toward his brother. "We can't start a war. A war would be the end of our civilization." "I understand you, John. I'm also worried about the escalation. But we can't keep making endless concessions to evil," Robert pressed. "I don't do that," Kennedy answered sharply. Robert leaned forward, his eyes burning with urgency. Don't make the same mistake our father did. The world was so afraid of another war that they eventually caused the worst one. Khrushchev, the Kremlin. They are not afraid to act. Look at Berlin. The Soviets stand at our gates, and they are going to take advantage of our hesitation. John studied his brother in silence, then rose to speak and took a book from the desk. Let me show you something. Robert narrowed his eyes. July Crisis? Have you read this? Of course. A day when peace started a war, John said quietly, his fingers brushing over its pages as if the weight of history itself rested in them. In 1914, he began, Franz Ferdinand and his wife were killed in Sarajevo. He turned the book toward Robert, revealing the black and white photograph. The Archduke lying in Sarajevo, the day that ignited the First World War. Nobody thought it was essential, John continued, but what seemed so innocent ultimately led to one of the worst conflicts in history. The images grew darker, bloodier. Photographs of Passchendaele, 1917. Mud, corpses, endless ruin. Much of the world was devastated. And they didn't even have the weapons we possess today. John closed the book halfway, his eyes fixed on his brother. Could you imagine this happening today? There would be nobody left to celebrate the victory. It would be the end of the human race. We can't negotiate with evil, but we can't become it either. War is not a solution. It's a consequence of human wrongs. His eyes stayed fixed on his brother. The silence between them spoke louder than words. I'm making the same mistake as our father. I'm scared of a war, but unlike before, I will not let our enemies take anything from our land. Robert studied his brother, and in that moment, he believed him. I will not let them push us into a corner, John said firmly. They tried it in Berlin, and they will fail in Cuba again. Robert nodded. He finally understood what John meant. Whatever happens, whatever they will come with, it won't be compared to burning millions in a nuclear war.
So ends one tale, but many more await. I am Richard the Lionheart, and this is Lionheart Cinema. Stand with us. Support our campaigns on Patreon or PayPal, or enlist us on Fiverr. Share this film, subscribe, and carry our creed. Just stay out of war. Until the next chapter, farewell.